Hi there. I was out on a hike today, gathering medicine and tuning into the environment, and I was inspired to stop and record a video. I've been committed to learning about the plants, learning from plants, integrating plant medicine in various ways into my life for most of the past 2 decades. I've been committed to sharing this knowledge with others and facilitating experiences for people to help them rediscover what is within them as a means of moving towards a place of balance and harmony within themselves. That's part, I believe, of what it is to be healed by plants, to be healed by herbs, to use herbs for healing. This is part of my approach. I should say my approach to bioregional herbalism encompasses this aspect of healing with plants through our direct relationship with living plants and the living world, the entire landscape around us. The fluctuations of the seasons, different places, and the energies that are present within each of these places and how that changes and shifts and flows season to season and year to year. There's something in all of that that speaks to us individually at any given time, and therefore that's manifest in unique ways in each of the herbs that we may utilize. So I guess part of the inspiration as a theme today, given that it's 4th of July, is independence, liberty, freedom. What does that mean to us? I think it's an important thing to reflect upon. In what way are we exercising that in our lives, and in what way are we complicit in not exercising that in our lives? That's for each of us to ponder and consider, but it was something that came to me on this walk, and what I'm inspired and how I came to be inspired to share some thoughts with you today. It's true that in all of my experiences with the plants, there is a recurring theme that I am accountable, that I am a center point in my outlook on the world around me. How I feel mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and the trajectory I see my life on, or I see my life having been on, and how I feel about it at a given time has a lot to do with my level of awareness about myself and the world around me. This again is something that's been, I would say, articulated to me by the plants that I work with. So, and that's a big part, again, of my bioregional herbalist approach, is paying close attention to what's right in front of me. And that could be anything, but plants has been my primary focus. So that's how I've approached this life, and how I recalibrate my life, and I've shared that with other people. So in that reflection, I am led to accept accountability as a key to my own freedom. Through accountability of whatever pain or suffering I may have experienced or caused, or joy I may have experienced or caused, full depth of accountability lends freedom to my path in life. What do I mean by that? In part, I feel uncorralled by expectations that may come from outside of me. If I accept those expectations that come from outside of me, I relinquish a degree of my own accountability. Am I accountable? That brings the question, am I accountable to others outside of myself? I would say to a degree, yes, but ultimately I am accountable to myself. And what I mean by that is each of us has a particular calling in our life, which may last throughout the length of one's lifetime, or at least adult lifetime, perhaps even the entire lifetime. Or we may go through cycles that shift and change, micro themes to perhaps match a macro theme. Nonetheless, our adherence in a heartfelt way to those inspirations and that guidance that comes from within is what leads to an authentic life. And if we are to be accountable for that, I feel each of our paths will become frictionless. We will encounter fewer obstacles and fewer challenges. If we adhere to this path with accountability for our own actions, more doors will open to us. Our ability to see pathways ahead of us and to be of service to others in a benevolent way will become enhanced. So I believe ultimately our path to freedom is exponential in a collective sense, as there are more of us who seek this path within ourselves that can collectively lift all the boats, so to speak, as the tide rises. It's an interesting dichotomy in that the pursuit of an individualized path results in the improvement of the lives of those around us. Whereas we're taught in this culture, I think predominantly today, that if you're selfish, you're bringing other people down. And if you do what's best for everybody else, you're improving the world around you. And I think it's a bit of a trick of the mind to state it in this way, because we tend to look at things in linear or two-dimensional ways, and we don't see the holistic potential, certainly not often enough in our own selfish actions. That has a negative connotation, but I feel to be selfish is to, and we could debate the semantics, but for the sake of being simple in my terms, to be selfish is to follow one's heart, one's passion, even though it may go against the grain of societal norms. This is, of course, in a sense, a bit of a revolt, revolution, in a sense, and therefore is jarring to many. As unfortunate as that may seem, I feel that's necessary in many cases for us to find our way back to the heart. We can take a path that is more gentle and gradually opening, or through persistence and resistance, we may be forced into a scenario of tumult and distress and suffering. But I feel ultimately it is our destiny as humans on this earth, if not our highest calling, to attune to our heart's awareness and let that inform our intellectual endeavors. Let that inform our pursuit of higher learning. So these are some of the lessons that nature, Mother Nature herself, and the plants have shared with me. It can be as simple as follow your heart, trust in your heart. And when do we know if we're doing that? Well, it's quite simple. How do you feel? Ask yourself that question. How do you feel? The plants have steered me back around to that direction over and over again. And if I notice that I'm not really present with how I feel, that's the beginning. That's the beginning. So if I choose to remain in a state of predominantly sympathetic nervous system dominance and push forward, I can successfully evade feeling into my heart. At what cost? I think we're beginning to see broadly, globally even, what that results in. If we are not attuned to our hearts, we can easily be dissuaded from seeing the truth. We can be manipulated quite easily. We can be presented with a stack of, quote, reasoned, rational thought that can be conjured up in any way, shape, or form to dismiss and occupy the space otherwise inhabited by our higher intelligence, which is our heart mind, our greatest cognitive organ in the body, and thus sacrifice our greatest power and our greatest means of ensuring our independence, our freedom, our liberties, our inalienable rights as humans under natural law, for the sake of what? Safety? A perceived notion at best. Safety is something we can attempt to plan for, but we cannot guarantee. As we've all witnessed in our lives, sometimes the best laid plans go awry. And we must continue to be responsive and continue to be on our toes in a sense, ultimately in a relaxed way. That's what nature teaches me. Approach new situations with a soft focus, relax the peripheral vision, and receive, take it in. How well do we do that? That's our ongoing barometer, asking ourselves that question. How in tune are we? And then practicing it, sinking down, feeling into the heart. Where do I feel tension? Where do I feel resistance? That tension and that resistance is the key. Now it's up to us to explore further beyond that. If we simply accept that as status quo, then that's how we will remain. That's how we will continue to exist, barring some catastrophic jolt. So it's up to us to actively pursue this as part of our plan for being here as humans. And the more that we articulate this, like so many other things, as we continue to practice this and articulate this freely amongst each other, the more readily it may be accepted by our entire being. Speaking as a person who's been raised and acculturated in an environment that heavily suppresses this and actively negates it through reasoned approach, very clever tactic, and a successful one. As you can see in the world around you, most people are detached and disconnected from their heart mind. This alone could be more responsible for early deaths and diseases and illnesses than anything else in our entire world, arguably predominantly in Western society, where this has been elevated to a high degree. So I invite you with these messages to not only get out into the natural world and explore your senses openly and curiously as a young child would, but also to check in with yourself daily in new situations as the thought arises. How do I feel in my heart? Questions, conundrums, challenges that you encounter where you seek guidance outside of yourself. Stop for a moment. Take a deep breath. Relax. Feel the presence of the earth beneath you somehow. And ask the question, is this good for me? Do I know the answer? Should I proceed with X, Y, Z? Or simply ask the question, I need help. I need guidance. And listen. Listen. And be willing to accept what you hear. It may be completely different from the story that we have been told and that we maintain and tell ourselves, but to simply listen and be receptive are two powerful, very powerful acts that we can participate in this world today. A big part of my training and what I offer to my students is developing the faculty of discernment. So it is that faculty of discernment that overrides the skeptic's mind and produces clear and reliable results in how we accept and interpret, to some extent, that which comes from the depths of our hearts. The skeptic mind otherwise will invalidate anything that challenges the programming inherent in our conditioning. But once we learn to develop our listening and our ability to see what's right in front of us, and the discernment that encompasses and penetrates all of that, then we become in alignment with our power. We begin to become in alignment with our power once again. And in that way, we can find ourselves in any given situation. And along with the faith to know that we are looked after and we are provided for here on this planet, that we will find an answer to what we need. We'll find an answer to our pleas and our questions if we can align ourselves with those simple yet fundamental faculties of our own empowerment. So I encourage you to begin practicing that, and I wish you well. Thank you.